It's a complete special teams overhaul for the San Francisco 49ers in 2025. They have cut Mitch Wishnowsky, the punter, brought in former Jets punter Thomas Morstead, and even more coming over from the New York Jets as the 49ers get ready for 2025. OTAs are on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Coach Crocky. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love and appreciate all the everydayers out there. Thanks for hanging with us on the Locked On Podcast Network. If you're new to the program, welcome. And please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast. If you're already subbed up, the thumbs up. Let us know that you are here today and hanging out. Niners making some moves here. Longtime punter Mitch Wishnowsky is out. Brant Boyer, new special teams coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers, making tons of moves and a complete overhaul, Croc, to make potentially every specialist on the entire team. And even Jake Moody's got some competition and making some changes to his approach to hopefully hold on to his job. New long snapper, new kicker, maybe new kick return, or new punter, new kick returner, possibly drafted in the 7th round. Junior Bergen, some thoughts on watching a little bit of his tape and what he looks like as a prospect for the San Francisco 49ers. But we got to start with Thomas Morstead, the 39-year-old punter, Croc. Has been signed by the San Francisco 49ers, former Jet Brant Boyer with Robert Saleh, special teams coordinator. So they're going to see a lot of familiar faces coming over from the New York Jets. Chaz Surratt, a linebacker as well. More on him in a second. But Thomas Morstead, who is he? New 49ers punter, 39 years old. He was better than Mitch Wishnowsky last year when it comes to average per punt, net average per punt. But actually, Wishnowsky a little bit better in punts that were dropped inside the 20. And if you remember the Weeks Wish Wash, where we can pour one out now for the Wish Watch, and this, by the way, Croc, this news was 24 hours too late to have it on our Winky Wednesday episode with Winkler. And so I guess we're gonna have to get his thoughts on it next week. But no more of Winks Wish Watch during the season. We know how good Mitch Wishnowsky was at dropping punts inside the 20, but not good enough for the San Francisco 49ers to look in another direction. Mitch Wishnowsky, you know what? I'm just going to be glad because I keep not being able to say his name. Mitch Wishnowsky's always been so difficult for me to say. That might be the last time I ever say it. He was pretty good dropping him inside the 20, but Thomas Morstead, the 39-year-old, is the new punter for the San Francisco 49ers. This is a little bit of a surprise move. Happened late in the process as we get started with OTAs, Croc.
Real quick, I definitely want to say something about late in the process. That is spot on. And I started saying something earlier to you when we were off air, and I said, you know what? Actually, hold on. I'm going to save that take for the podcast. But first, I do want to talk about how I saw Thomas Morstead talk about how he was grateful for the opportunity. I'm thinking like, okay, they signed a punter, but man, I wonder why they did that. We have Mitch Wishnowsky. And then I was tagged in something an hour ago from Travis, Niner Faithful, obviously a listener of the podcast. And he says, thinking of Bay Area Wink in these trying times. And he tagged you and I in there. And that's when I realized, Mitch Wishnowsky got released. Now, Winky did respond to that tweet from our good friend Travis. And he said, best inside the 20 percentage in the NFL. Some other fan base is about to fall in love with this guy. So I think that's the tough thing right there. I thought he was good. And I said that when you and I got on here and you were like, yeah, release him out. I thought he was good though. like Moody, he's hanging around and people are very at odds with what exactly he is and uncomfortable with him having to kick field goals. But Wishnowsky, a guy who was really kind of an afterthought because he had been good, he's just gone. But I love how you touched on the timing of it because we see this sometimes. It is late May, about to be June. And for a guy who's a punter, it's like, man, you released him at a time where how and maybe it's one of those June 1st designation things. So it saved him some money, but it also hurts him, and the Dallas Cowboys did this with Dez Bryant. I didn't think that Dez Bryant was like super cooked. Obviously, he wasn't prime Des Bryant at this time, but he was still a solid receiver, had a good year with Dak Prescott. This was Prescott's rookie year. Well, they released him like way late in the process. And it was at a time where now teams have their draft, teams have their free agent signings, and now you just kind of have this veteran kind of floating. And it's even worse for a guy like Wishnowsky because teams only need one punter. You still need several receivers. So maybe there's a team out there that says, you know what, we'll take a chance on this guy. But punters, you only need one. So, gosh, I think they kind of did my guy Wishnowsky a disservice by releasing him at this point in the offseason. I'm kind of upset about that.
I don't know how much better or worse Thomas Morstead will be than Mitch Wishnowsky. Clearly, Thomas Morstead's not a long-term move, being 39 years old, and you can hang on as a specialist and play for a while. And it was funny because Mitch Wishnowsky is really old for a draft pick. He was already in his 30s by the time he signed his second contract in the NFL. He's already 33 years old. He hasn't even been around for that long. But it's more of a statement, I think, of the 49ers saying that old special teams is gone. This is a new special teams unit completely, top to bottom. And if you hung on because you earned it and you were still good enough, because if you could be replaced, we're going to replace you. And so Jake Moody, not out of the woods yet. And it's Brant Boyer's special teams. That's it, period. And so we'll see how much strides the 49ers make in that regard, how much improved they are. And they better be improved because you've made so many different moves and they were already bad. So you can't get much worse than the 31st ranked special teams in the NFL. So from that standpoint, good, make changes, make it right, make it better. Just because you're familiar with the new special teams coordinator, does that make you a better player than the guys they're getting rid of in some cases? I don't know. I don't know if that's the case with Mitch Wishnowsky, but there was some injury factor with Wishnowsky as well. And, maybe there was some lingering back injury stuff with him. And they thought, well, if you're not ready for OTAs, then you're not going to be ready for us this year. And we're not even going to mess around with that because honestly, we don't care. We got a healthy punter we can just sign. So we're going to do that. And the NFL is ruthless like that sometimes. But yeah, it felt a little weird and late in the process for them to be moving on from Mitch Wishnowsky and adding Thomas Morstead. I don't think it'll be a big difference, but I think the statement that the 49ers are making with all the changes on special teams is probably the biggest thing that I come away with. And we could have a new punter, kicker, maybe long snapper for sure. That's already a done deal. Maybe a new kick returner as well, and some new coverage guys. And one of them is the other player the 49ers signed, another former Jet, Chaz Surratt, linebacker. Chaz Surratt, former third-round draft pick, and he is another former Jets linebacker and actually started 5 games last season with the New York Jets, and not only made tackles on defense, but made tackles on special teams as well. So Chaz Surratt, another one-year contract as Thomas Morstead is, and I think another player that was brought in to help bolster those special teams. And I think that's what's really important about the signing for Chaz Surratt, and also just a veteran who's played football. And the 49ers, we've been talking all offseason, Croc, pre-draft, post-draft, is pretty clear they're going to draft a lot of players on the defensive side of the ball and potentially have a lot of players that were young and competing for spots. So they needed to add some veteran players to this mix as well. And I think that's part of what Chaz Surratt is about. They waived linebacker Deshaun White, who I didn't even know was on the roster, to bring in Chaz Surratt. So Chaz Surratt, 6'2", 233 pounds, originally selected by the Minnesota Vikings in the 3rd round of the 2021 NFL draft, though through his 4-year career with the Vikings for a couple of years, and then with the Vikings for 1 year, was only with the Jets for 1 year, then moved along to the New York Jets in 2022 through 2024. He started 5 games. All of those starts were last season. He appeared in a career-high 17 games with those 5 starts last year. Had 18 tackles in 5 starts. It was not huge numbers. 10 special teams tackles as well with the New York Jets. So that is Chaz Surratt, who's in the mix now at linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers. Do you have any in-depth Chaz Surratt breakdowns to drop on us, Croc?
No, I do not. It's funny because we know that special teams is a pivotal part of football, right? There's 3 phases: offense, defense, special teams. And in every game, you want to go in there. Obviously, you would love to win all 3, but you want to win 2 out of the 3 phases of it. And as important as we know special teams is, I still feel like it gets put on the back burner in the sense of importance to talk about. But it is very important, and that is something that has cost the 49ers games. You go back to the Cleveland Browns game a couple of seasons ago, and we have all talked about, 49ers lost, and this guy got hurt, and Brock Purdy, down the stretch. But Brock Purdy put the team in position to win the football game, and the damn kicker missed the kick. And it wasn't even like a far kick. And they did a terrific job of making some clutch throws. Purdy made some clutch throws down the stretch in that game to put them in position to be able to win. So, you kind of think of things like that and how it can truly cost you a game. But for whatever reason, as far as importance of, really looking into some of these guys that are going to help the 49ers, some of the signings, the linebacker that I continue to forget his name, that's a guy that's really more so for special teams. Some of the safeties at the 49ers signed, Siren Neal, a guy like him, special teams. So, we'll see if Morstead can help the 49ers improve on their special teams.
Luke Gifford is the name that you're looking for there at linebacker.
He's always just going to be that linebacker. I just can't remember his name.
Yeah,
that's now his name in my head.
Well, and it's also
I should put a lot more respect on him. He's had, you last this long in the NFL, terrific career. I had some of my players ask me today, "Hey, coach, why did you get cut?" And I was like, "Man, I think I sucked at special teams." So maybe I should put more importance on talking about that unit.
His swag, his drip was trash, so that's why Croc got cut from New York, wearing 41 out there. It's easy to confuse Luke Gifford, the linebacker, and Luke Farrell, the tight end that the 49ers signed. Backup guys with the name Luke. Maybe that's why things got lost in the mix when you're looking at free agency and teams are signing these big name guys, and you're like, Luke Gifford. What's a Luke Gifford? We'll find out what Luke Gifford is. He's competing with Chaz Surratt as a backup linebacker, special teams player for the San Francisco 49ers. More on the 49ers' new look special teams, Jake Moody's new approach, and maybe new return man, 7th-round draft pick, Junior Bergen. Next. This episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And we talk a lot about FanDuel here, and there's so many ways to play on FanDuel and so many sports you can get involved with FanDuel. And I know it's not NFL season, but man, Matt Williamson and I, by the way, subscribe to the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. On Monday's episode, we went through all the rookie prop bets at FanDuel. There's tons of ways you can still bet on the NFL, even in the offseason, weekly lines. Bet on your San Francisco 49ers to win the Super Bowl. Tons of props for the 2025 season. But, of course, it's NBA playoff time, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, series-changing plays, momentum shifts, and whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action than right now, because FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live during the game with same-game parlays. And how about an extra $200 to play with at FanDuel if you win your first $5 bet? So if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. And make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So, Croc, we've got a new punter, Thomas Morstead. We got a new long snapper, Jon Weeks. We have potentially competition for Jake Moody in Greg Joseph, kicker that was added to the roster. Punt returner, Junior Bergen, competing with Jacob Cowing, maybe competing with Isaac Guerrero, maybe others for those punt and kick return jobs. I want to start with Jake Moody, though, real quick. And there's a story this week about Jake Moody coming into the season, coming into OTAs, that is maybe making some adjustments to the way he kicks and potentially giving up some power and some distance for accuracy, which would be nice, right? And maybe you've got two different style of kicks where you got that accurate kick for the short ones, and you've got some other kick that, when you really have to give it more and that accurate kick isn't going to make it. You got to put a little bit more hips into it and have a different technique for the long ones. I don't know how it works. I have no clue about special teams at all, Croc. We were talking off the air about coaching up special teams for your high school team. I couldn't even begin to tell a kicker how to kick a football and be like, yeah, man, who's the biggest kid that kicks it the farthest? You're my kicker, right? Like that's but there's a lot of technique that goes into it, and really a lot of it's mental too. So if Jake Moody's never going to get over the mental hurdle, if he does have mental hurdles, then he's going to have a rough career. And I think there's a big reason why we see veteran kickers, usually the better kickers in the NFL. And usually you don't hear about guys being great kickers until they're already in their 30s practically, and they can kick for a long time. Thomas Morstead's a guy who's punted for a long time in the NFL. Specialists can hang on for a long time. You see a lot of older, in fact, all the oldest players in the NFL are long snappers and punters and kickers. So once you're good at that, you can be good and stay for a long time because it's not as much about physical ability with those positions. But Greg Joseph has been brought in to compete and maybe push Jake Moody a little bit. What do you think about the tweaks for Jake Moody as a kicker? Do you think, do you have confidence in Jake Moody as the guy going forward?
Well, I feel like kicking has a lot to do with confidence, right? I mean, you can kind of attest to this with just golfing and a golf swing. And if it's not going well, tweaking your golf swing, I feel like that's when you're starting to kind of grasp for straws a little bit, trying to figure out like, all right, I got to figure something out here. So if you're having to change your kicking motion, something that made you a third round pick in the NFL, right? That might as well be equivalent to a first round pick, right? For kickers, that's picked pretty high. You're not seeing guys really go higher than that. You had the one kid from Florida State going the second round, and we know that Janikowski went first round many moons ago. But when you start tweaking that kick 3 years into your career, that seems a little worrisome for me. And I mean, as far as tweaking something, can you talk to us? Have you ever had to tweak your golf swing? And if so, what was that process like? And did you revert back to your old way of doing things, or like what was that like if you've gone through that?
Oh, it's a constant tweak. It's never-ending tweaks, Croc, for my golf game. But I don't golf at a high enough level to where there would stop being tweaks ever, and there may never stop being tweaks to my golf swing. It's funny because a lot of times the best golfers on football teams, they're the kickers. Maybe because they have more time to practice it, but it's that repeatable technique. And yeah, you got to stand over your shot with confidence and believe in the shot. And hit your shot. And so there's a lot to it. There's a lot of mental hurdles. It's just you out there with a ball that's not moving, right? So
I think that's the biggest part. No, you just touched on like the confidence, standing over that ball with confidence. And I think for a kicker, I think that is the biggest hurdle, because you start missing one or you miss one right, and then okay, I gotta push it back left instead of just falling back on what got you there to that point to begin with. And for Wishnowsky, it was almost like we could see it damn near in his eyes. I remember I was watching one game with my brother, and I'm watching him, and he got up to kick. I'm looking at his face. I'm like, he doesn't look too confident here. Boom, shanked it. I'm like, oh, come on. So just that confidence. I don't know if you've ever done something where you just had like the ultimate confidence that you're going to nail this, and just that feeling of like, there's no way that this can go wrong. Like, there's absolutely no way because I'm just that confident. And I don't feel like Moody had that kind of confidence this past season. Maybe part of it was the injury. And that's something I feel like we do gloss over. He had an injury. That could have definitely hurt him. He had to miss some time with it. I believe it was a high ankle sprain. Coming back, maybe he's planting a little different. And a lot of the issues happened after the injury happened. Now, I would just chalk it up to that, but then now it's him trying to change his motion or his approach or whatever. So he must think that there is something a little bit extra to some of the misses, but I think that the injury had a big part to do with it as well.
You got to commit to the shot, Croc. And yeah, it's harder to commit if your body's not allowing you to, and then that starts to change your mechanics. If there's one body part that's not quite working right, and if you change one thing, then that could potentially change the entire rest of your swing or your stroke or your kick if the sequence is a little bit off. So yeah, there's a lot to it, and then a lot of it's mental and getting back to that repeatable formula. His competition, Greg Joseph, former Cleveland Brown, former Tennessee Titan, former Minnesota Vikings, where he played most of his career, 3 years of it. It was the only place he stayed for multiple seasons, bounced around a lot. New York Giants, Washington Commanders, and the New York Jets last year. 3 different teams last year for Greg Joseph. He's a career 82.3% field goal maker. And not great from long distance, 50 plus. He's just barely over 50%. And so Jake Moody does have a more powerful leg But you got to make the short ones too. So it's going to be fun. And there's going to be a competition, I think. And I don't know if the 49ers clearly want Jake Moody to win that job, but they have a guy who's kicked in the NFL to be there to compete with him and at least push Jake Moody. And Jake Moody needs it. And if you can't handle that competition, then you probably can't handle kicking game-winning field goals in the NFL if you're Jake Moody. Next, Croc, let's talk return game. The 49ers selected 7th round return man and wide receiver Junior Bergen out of Montana. Got a little mini scouting report on him, mostly as a return man, because tape was a little bit tough to come by for that Montana football team. And maybe talk about some other potential return guys. Who's even in the mix in the return game for the San Francisco 49ers next. Croc, I don't know if you were able to find some super secret Montana tape, but it was tough to come by. And he's the last player we haven't done a scouting report on. So we're kind of not doing a full scouting report type of episode or segment on him. But you did get a chance to watch a lot of his returns because he was a good return man in college and he housed quite a few returns in college and put up some stats as a wide receiver as well. 5'9", 184 pounds. And he was All-American, by the way, in 2024, AP All-American. He was Return Specialist of the Year in the FCS as well. All Big Sky honors as a wide receiver, kick returner, and punt returner for the Montana Grizzlies. He had 1,700 yards over his 48 career games as a wide receiver, 577 rushing yards as well, with 18 total touchdowns on offense, while adding 2,000 more return yards and 9 return scores on special teams. 9 returns, kick and punt returns. So he can house it. And Croc, he also had, as a punt return, over 16-yard average on returns. Like, they didn't really even want to kick him the ball at one point. Like, he was one of the best return men in college football. And a late 7th round pick, I kind of like this type of draft pick where there's at least a path for a player to make the team. Now, if he doesn't make the team as a return man, then he probably doesn't make the team. And then maybe he's a practice squad guy and you still try to work him in as a wide receiver. And I think there's some potential there for him as a wide receiver because of the way he runs and the way he moves, but he's not the biggest guy either. Interesting style as a return man, though, Croc, because he's not a burner. He's a 4'5" guy. He's not very big, but this dude weaves. And he's got a really natural feel by the way he moves and the way he weaves and the way he gets upfield. It's not like I'm doubling back and going Peter Warwick style where I'm going this way, then I'm going to return all the way back around and take one to the house. He's got vision and he weaves through and he's got really good agility. And then he can hit it and he can hit it when he's got a whole little bit of a gear, not a crazy top speed gear. It's more, it's the weave is the best word I can think of watching him return punts, Croc.
He didn't look very dynamic back there, right? And I grew up, watching punt returners, whether it's at the college level or NFL level, but, the Devin Hesters, Ted Ginn, Dante Hall, right? Like just those.
I'd say that's probably the closest comp because Hall wasn't very big and Hall didn't have the crazy top end speed, I don't think, that maybe some other like Ted Ginn and the strides to really hit it and go. He was quick, but he didn't quite have the top speed, but he was little and he had that ability to find it, get there, and then he could still go.
Yeah, but that elusiveness from Dante Hall was just like incredible. And with Bergen, I wonder if, because terrific returner, did the level of competition, like could he have done that in the SEC with what he is as an athletic profile, with his athletic profile? Like could he have just didn't done any of that?
Would it have looked the same? Yeah, no, that's a great question going from, Montana to the NFL and how much easier is it? And it's especially with those types of positions, return man, to be honest with you, we saw it with Dante Pettis, right? Dante Pettis was like, oh, I'm cool. I'm not even gonna get my uniform dirty today. I'm gonna take this punt return to the house. He gets to the NFL and it's like, oh, it's not that easy up here. And he didn't last very long.
They folded him up like a pretzel. One of his early returns against the then San Diego Chargers, I believe. But I mean, they snatched him up, rolled him over. His knee was all hurt after that, right? Like it just depends on what you're looking for. If you are saying, all right, Junior Bergen, we just want a sure-handed guy that can give us 10 yards on your return. And that's essentially what kind of like Trent Taylor was. Then awesome. All right. But also Trent Taylor had a lot of value for the 49ers as a slot receiver. And he was kind of their third down guy. And he was winning on slants, like at like a higher clip than anyone else at the NFL level, right? So it wasn't just Trent Taylor as a returner. It was, well, Trent Taylor also in college was like a 1,600-yard receiver guy. I mean, he was just like, he went ridiculous. Okay, not as fast, not as big, but man, sure-handed, has good quicks, can win this way. Oh, by the way, he can be a returner for us, doesn't drop punts, gives you 9 yards of return. That's still, he was good for kind of like top 10 in the league. Wasn't going to break off, he wasn't going to rip off a touchdown or, the 60-yard, but just helping flip position and how important that is. He did a terrific job at that. Bergen, can you just be that? The issue is he that at receiver as well, which gave Trent Taylor a little bit more important to making the squad. And also, the squad that Trent Taylor made was not the squad that Junior Bergen is going into. And there's that aspect of it as well. Like Trent Taylor, who they have? Alvance Robinson, I think his name was. You had Pierre Garçon and Kendrick Bourne. Like, and Kendrick Bourne got there at the same time as Trent Taylor. So
and was undrafted.
You had a couple rookies and like a couple of these vets, and we'll see where this goes. Whatever, it's the first year. Well, this year, and we'll see where Brandon Ayuk is with help. But there's Brandon Ayuk, there's Ricky Pearsall, there's Juwan Jennings. I mean, there's Jacob Cowing, who they just drafted, a year ago. They signed a veteran that may not initially make the roster with Robinson, but he'll have to sit out a little bit, but he'll be returning, right? Like I feel like I'm missing a receiver right now, but there's some guy. It's not the same kind of situation, so he's kind of battling for that potentially like that 6th spot, hopefully. And I think a big part of it is going to be how dynamic do you look as a returner, and are you sure-handed?
Are you just so good as a returner that they're like, well, we can't, even if he only returns and he's not even a good enough 5th or 6th wide receiver, he's our return guy. And so he's got a roster spot, period. How many roster spots are Brant Boyer going to get? And he already has, it looks like, a lot of say on this current San Francisco 49ers roster, which a lot of the position coaches and a lot of the coordinators on the 49ers do have a lot to say about the guys that they have on the roster. You got Jordan Watkins, the rookie that he's competing with there. The 49ers still have Russell Gage. Trent Taylor is still around. Demarcus Robinson suspended for a few games to start the season. Tariq Owens, Isaiah Nayer, Isaiah Hodgins. It's a big group. There's a lot of wide receivers that are going to come to camp. Brandon Ayuk not going to be able to practice right away, but when he's back too, it's not going to be a lot of open spots there after him. If Demarcus Robinson sticks around, Jacob Cowing, and the rookie 4th rounder Jordan Watkins, I mean, that's 6 wide receivers right there. So you got to be able to prove probably that you're not only a good returner, but you have some value to the offense, and you can play one of those roles as at least the 6th wide receiver, right? You probably got to be able to do that. And if there's any Montana fans out there that watch a lot of Junior Bergen, let us know what's the deep scouting report on Junior Bergen, the receiver. By the way, Dante Hall, 5'8", 191, 4.44 official 40-yard dash time, 38-inch vertical too. And how about this for his 20-yard shuttle, 3.82 shuttle time, which is like, that's one of the fastest I've ever heard of.
That's quicks on a different level. And we saw that. I used to love watching him throw up the X, and I used to use him on the video game. When you are in the NFL and you have access, there are some guys who maybe won't be these great receivers at the NFL level. But I feel like you have access to viewing a lot of super dynamic guys. 49ers kind of struggling to find one of those guys. I feel like they do find good athletes and put them back there. But like, who is that dynamic? Who the Cowboys got Turpin, and I think they had ended up getting Turpin from a different league. But like, every time Turpin kind of touches the ball, I'm scared. Like, hey, this guy, he's just so quick, so fast. He can flip field. We've seen him return, 1 or 2 for touchdowns for the Dallas Cowboys. Where's that kind of guy that just has everybody like, oh, we can't let him get a crease, or you got to stay on your toes a little bit. Like, how hard is it? Maybe it's very difficult. How hard is it to find like that kind of guy? Because again, a lot of the guys at the 49ers do get at returners are good athletes. Like DJ Reed was doing it, good athlete. Dante Pettis, good athlete. I'm trying to think of another guy that came in and was like, oh, this is the punt returner.
Well, Mostert was the special teams guy at first, right?
Yeah,
the athletic, and then ended up winning the tailback job.
Yeah. Who's the dynamic guy? Like, how hard is it to find that guy? Because Bergen, I watch him, really good, and maybe the vision that he has, the feel for it, makes it to where maybe he doesn't have to be the most dynamic guy. Man, I just have this good feel for it, right? Like, just think of, I don't know, Luka Doncic. He ain't the most dynamic basketball player in the league, but he just has this feel for kind of getting in this spot and being able to create a certain way. It's like the slowest thing you've ever seen, but it's super efficient and it works at like one of the highest levels in the NBA. I'm not saying Bergen is that. He's more athletic looking than that, but just, hey man, this just works for me, Croc. Like, give me a break and just watch me play.
Speaking of a guy that can weave, Junior Bergen, the Luka of the NFL. Love that. By the way, just the official numbers, the testing numbers for Junior Bergen out of Montana: 5'9.5", 184 pounds, 4.53 40-yard dash. He had a 36.5-inch vertical, 10-foot broad jump, 4.22 short shuttle, 6.97 3-cone, which is really good. And then, for not a big guy, 17 bench press reps too. So he's putting in some work there. Junior Bergen.
Dante Hall's numbers, golly. Even at 5'8", 191 pounds, that's he's kind of packing a little bit of power there.
Compact.
And then to put up those quickness, those agility numbers, and still ran a 4.44. Like, it's not slow at all.
At first, it said 4.29. Someone's got him on a watch somewhere at 4.29, but his official, I think, combine was 4.44. The human joystick, right? Is that his name?
Human joystick.
Yeah, there you go.
And they, he would throw it to X for the X factor. I think they may have created the X factor in Madden because of him. They ended up having a player on your team could end up getting like this highlighted thing where it's like the X factor.
Yeah.
And I think that might have been because of Dante Hall.
I like it. Junior Bergen, is he the next X factor returning the football for the San Francisco 49ers? We'll find out. It's going to be a fun camp. Got a chance to make the squad on an all-new look, revamped special teams under Brant Boyer for the San Francisco 49ers. Let us know what you think at BD Peacock, at Coach Crocky now on Twitter. And hit us up, by the way, if there's any questions you got about the Niners, any topics you want us to hit as we roll towards training camp on Twitter, or you can hit us up on YouTube. And, of course, subscribe while you're there. The thumbs up. Let us know you stopped by. Hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. And Croc and I back tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers.